Hey, what's going on, you guys? PochSpice here, reminding you guys that Call of the Abyss 6 is right around the corner. And if you guys haven't updated yourselves with the current game and its status now, or you've been living under a rock, we got you guys covered here, because this is the Call of the Abyss 6 qualifier game version overview, where we'll be tackling things such as the talent adjustments, map adjustments, band pick adjustments, as well as the character adjustments. So guys, stay tuned, get some drinks, get some snacks, because we're gonna head right into it, because this is gonna be a long discussion. We're gonna start off with the talent adjustments. Again, big changes when it comes to the persona web of the survivors and the hunters. You guys can see here in my little whiteboard, we got some circles here when it comes to the survivor and hunter side. We're gonna go to each and every change here, starting with the survivor side. Knee-jerk reflex. This has been replaced by a new talent called muscle memory. So interaction speed when vaulting over pallets and windows is increased by 5%, 10%, and 15%. We also got to talk about that cooldown time, which is 25 seconds. You might be thinking, what happened to knee-jerk reflex? Don't worry, it is merged with broken windows, adding also a new effect. The movement speed increase out of the hunter's tear radius is reduced by 25%. So big incentives here when it comes to the kiting abilities once you build that 9 on the persona web of the survivors. So let's move on to the next one. Modified Distress has turned into a permanent ability, and this slot has been replaced with a new talent called Herd Mentality. For those solo queuers out there, this is for you, because after being pursued by a hunter for 5 seconds, if you leave the hunter's warning range and the hunter is not in pursuit of you, the hunter's outline will be shown to all survivors for 4 seconds. Cooldown time is 80 seconds, and the highlighted hunter will be immune to this effect for 40 seconds after the effect has ended. This is big because now you don't really need voice comms to know where the hunter is at when he's transitioning targets. So that is herd behavior as a talent. So they added a new talent called Weber's Law to replace Symbiotic Effect slot. And what this does is that it increases movement speed by 10%, 15%, and 20% when being pursued by a hunter for 3 seconds within 18 meters of the hunter. And it only lasts for like 5 seconds, and it triggers once per match, which I think is pretty good, especially if you want to start off the match right. You bring this talent, and you're able to at least start off the match in a good note and not get caught up right away. It gives you at least that little bit of boost to start things off right and transition to a good kiting spot. So that's Weber's Law. And Symbiotic Effect, for those of you who don't know, the movement speed boost is increased by 6% when running towards the survivor on a rocket chair. So rescue mains out there, do bring this talent. It can help you out. And we got to talk about mutual support for all the healer mains out there, because this talent gives you that effect, because gives you an effect of when you and your injured survivors who are not being pursued by the hunter, y'all are highlighted. So this incentivizes you to heal each other up instead of using those force chats. So that's mutual support in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. So next big thing we got to talk about is flywheel effect. Once you've used the flywheel effect to avoid breaking wheels, pierce, or naiads, 100% humidity damage. If you are subject to the effect in these abilities again, you will be affected by it immediately. So that's huge. Again, ladies and gentlemen, flywheel effect. Another huge thing we got to talk about is brewing effect. So once the accelerated decoding phase has begun, survivors who are not decoding will receive a 1% decoding boost every second, and it stacks up to 10 seconds. And this effect will be removed once the coding begins, and it'll last for more than 10 seconds. So this is kind of interesting how players can play around this trait, because now it kind of incentivizes you not to rush yet, maybe stack up the whole 10 seconds of 10%, then use it all up. So the end game is going to be very interesting. We also have to address the new talent called Telepathy. All survivors are shown for 5 seconds every 40 seconds when the exit gates are activated. Game changer when it comes to solo queuing and how to navigate yourself through the end game. And also the companion effect. So movement speed is increased by 28% after being rescued on a rocket chair. This lasts for 2 seconds, gives you a little bit of a gift from the gods when you're being rescued from a rocket chair. And that 28% speed boost could definitely be a game changer when it comes to transitioning away from where you sat on that rocket chair. So that about wraps up the survivor side of the persona web, the talent web. Again, we want to know what you think in the comment section down below, because we are moving on to the hunter side of things. So they modified tinnitus to be a permanent talent, and it is replaced. The original slot is replaced by exhibitionist. So what does exhibitionist do? It increases attack recovery speed by 10% after missing an attack. This effect is increased by an additional 15% for every one free-moving survivor within 24 meters of you, and it stacks up to 40%. This effect ends when a survivor is tied to a rocket chair, so it doesn't really punish you for trying to be more aggressive when survivors are around you. It kind of gives you that, all right, that moral support, like you can keep swinging here. So that's exhibitionist. Now we got to talk about restraint, because that was replaced. Its original slot was replaced by a new talent called nostalgic. This really helps hunters kind of go back to their original survivors, hence the name nostalgic. Let's go back to the past. Reveals the survivor location after they are rescued from a rocket chair within 24 meters of you. Increases your movement speed, moving towards the survivor by up to 10% when the survivor is more than 12 meters away. And the movement speed increases based on the distance to that survivor. So this lasts about for 12 seconds. And if a survivor takes damage during this period, the effect is going to end in advance. So the talent loses its effect once the survivor is eliminated. So it kind of helps you go back once again to your first love, your first survivor. That is the nostalgic talent. So let us move on to the next one. New talent, I would say updated talent of Control Freak. Now this gives you a bit of a buff once you jump from once you have a vertical descent. So increases movement speed by 6% during a natural vertical descent from a height. And this lasts about 4 seconds, and cooldown time is 16 seconds. Now we also got to talk about the 3 other talents, mischievous, addiction, and impulsive. So mischievous, all you need to know, it increases balloon time by 20%. Addiction, when 2, 3, 4 free-moving survivors are within 18 meters of you, your recovery speed from stuns or powerful control effects are increased by 15, 20%, 25%. Heck, that's a good talent to bring, especially if you're facing stunners. And last on this page, at least, impulsive increases movement speed by 8% when using charged up attacks. And cooldown time is 5 seconds, so that's a bit of a buff. Especially when you you're a hunter that loves using up charged up attacks. So we're gonna move on to the last changes. The wither has increased. Its percentages have increased from 10%, 15%, 20% to 15%, 25%, and 35%. So that really, I would say buffs the no camp strategy. We also got to talk about, they added a new effect to confined space, so windows will be unblocked when hunter vaults over the window for a second time. So at least you can kind of cut off that route if you want to close out the distance when chasing a survivor, cut off their route even though they're not going to go through that window. Another thing is the adjustment movement speed of hunter's instinct from 0.5%, 1%, and 1.5% is now 1%, 1.5%, and 2%, and also adjusted speed reduction of tolerance from 8%, 14%, and 20% to 12%, 18%, and 24%. That's going to wrap up the adjustments on the persona web of the hunter. Once again, if you guys are just watching until here, let us know what you think in the comment section down below. But do stick around, because we're going to move on over to the map adjustment, which I feel like is going to be huge, especially in competitive. Arms Factory, 3 pallet area, never heard of it. It is now a 2 palleted area. So plan your routes accordingly, especially since this is one of the best routes to take, the golden route, especially once you hit that middle part, you can lead them towards that factory. So, yep, be very careful in using these 2 remaining pallets in the center of Arms Factory. So let's head on over to Sigurdard Hospital. They removed the pallet below the hull inside the hospital area. So that's going to be a little tricky, especially if you're going to do drop-down kiting or try to go inside and use that pallet. Again, it's going to be tough to get caught in the second part, the first floor of this map. And now without that pallet, it's going to be even tougher to kite. And also, they added a window near the cipher machine of the front gate. So this can definitely help out, especially if you get caught out in the open in the front gate area of the Sacred Heart Hospital. So let's head on over to Leo's Memory, our favorite map. Let's see if these changes are going to make Leo's map a more viable map in competitive Call of the Identity 5 and in Call of the Abyss. I'm not sure, but let's go on through the changes. So move the window below the staircase inside the factory area in a certain distance towards the entrance, so it's closer to the entrance now. I think you might as well just use that, not for looping, but just using the boost. We're also going to talk about the changes on the outside of the factory. They removed the pallet that it's closest to, and it extended the length of that pallet area. As you can see there, it's a lot longer now, so it can be used for kiting. So another big change I would have to say in these maps is Leo's Memory. Sorry, not Leo's Memory, is Lakeside Village, because holy smokes, we have another entrance into the big boat from the bottom floor. Yes, there is a hole in the left side of that ship. And also in the front gate, the coastal gate, there is another pallet to use. So plan your routes accordingly, ladies and gentlemen, especially when it comes to the late game. All right, folks, on to the last map. One of the biggest changes in this whole update, I would say, is to the Moonlit River Park, because not only are we going to look through the map changes and added windows and pallets, there's also going to be some changes to the roller coaster. So let's start off with the 2 gaps to the 2 platforms. Yes, you heard it right. In the first stop and the last stop, there are going to be these gaps that hunters and survivors can jump through, so they won't be in that platformed area. I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out in competitive, especially with that acrobat jump spot. This could hurt it. This could actually buff it, but at least they'll give hunters more options instead of going in that U-turn, exiting the platformed area. So we also have to talk about the coaster, because that has changed significantly, because survivors and hunters will be slowed down by 15% for 5 seconds after riding the coaster to the platform. Okay, that's one. And they adjusted the roller coaster cooldown time from 20 seconds to 33 seconds, so you're going to be late for your morning commute, guys. And it extended the time it takes for the roller coaster to get from the second stop to the third stop by 4 seconds. Seconds are so precious in this game, so this change is going to be hard to adjust to, especially if you're a survivor team that relies on the roller coaster meta or the roller coaster game plan in this map. So yeah, and the 15-second slowdown for 5 seconds after exiting, man, if a hunter is behind you, and yeah, that's not a good time to get off the coaster. But those are the changes. I wonder how in competitive it's going to affect game plans or the pick rate of Moonlit River Park. So let's also talk about the other map changes here. Again, they added 5 pallets and windowed areas to first stop, end stop, double track slide, and 2 other places. We're going to take a look at them now. This is the front exit, or the first stop exit. This is the slide area that I talked about. This also is the back exit, or the 4th stop exit. They added a window in this area. Last but not least, right outside, or right at the side where the bridge connects to the 2-story building, they added another palleted area. So welcome changes for me as a survivor player. Hunter mains, please let us know what you think in the comments down below, and whoever also survivors too, let us know what you think, because I think adding more pallets and windowed areas is always good for survivors, but I'd love to have a hunter's perspective on this. So picks and bans. I'm gonna stop it here. Let's talk about the latest addition into competitive Identity 5. We got the Antiquarian. Again, with her flute as a weapon, very interesting, because it has a lot of utilization. You could swipe left, swipe right. The hunter, you can also stab him, and you can also vault through him. That's 4, and not to mention when you spin it around, you get speed boost. So how crazy is that? Great, I would say, when it comes to support and also kiting. Not sure how much we're gonna see her in competitive. But you have to say, a lot of things to look forward to if an Antiquarian will be coming into the mix in competitive Identity 5. So something to mention also, nimble and graceful, or footprints disappear 1 second sooner. Hates evil. Every time a hunter attacks within 18 meters, the antiquarian's pallet drop speed will increase by 5%, and the hunter stunned for 5% longer, and it stacks up to 2 times. And also, something to take note of, old wounds. Gate opening speed is decreased by 30%. That is about it when it comes to Antiquarian. I'm excited to see her in competitive play. All right, let's now talk about the Hermit. I was excited to see the Antiquarian, and I'm so excited to see how the Hermit is going to make his way to competitive Identity 5. Heck, even in Call of the Abyss, he might make his mark. I would have to say, though, based on community games that I've seen, he has fallen down the priority list because of how teams found a way to counter him. But let's get to know him a little more, starting with his blessing. Normal attacks deal 1.2 damage. Survivors without polarity, that's his whole system. It's this polarity system, and we'll get into that in a bit. Will be given corresponding polarity by magnetic field generated by the scepter. So the Hermit can connect ciphers and exit gates, okay? So when decoding cipher machines connected by the Hermit, it'll transmit a positive charge to survivors. Now, survivors can reverse their polarity while decoding cipher machines or exit gates, and this effect has a 50-second cooldown at the start of the match. The cooldown is 100 seconds. So that's his whole game plan, right? He wants to, when he connects the cipher machines, he slows down the progress because you have to decode, and then you got to touch those cipher machines, and you get these positive and negative charges, the blue and red charges that you guys have to share. And when he hits someone, you guys can share damage. So it can be good if you're spreading out your, you're spreading out damage, and it can be good to down a lot of survivors, but we've seen in community games how survivors can kind of counter this with just tanking hits, bring a doctor in, waiting for accelerated decoding, just so that they'll be able to negate this connected cipher strategy. And also, you got to admit, yes, he does have the, he can teleport into like this ball, and then when he shoots down, he'll stun you, then he'll hit you. You got to gain presence for that. And early game, you know what, he is starving for that presence, so he might have to bring Blink. We've just seen how well these survivors have been in kiting in early game because they are fully equipped with their toolkit, and this Hermit can struggle. So I'm excited to see how this Hermit can translate in competitive, because this hunter is such a complex hunter, and it's a joy to watch if we see some top tier or big brain plays come from our competitive players. Now, we're going to talk about the survivors and hunter adjustments. Big change when it comes to the Postman. The Tranquility Letter, ladies and gentlemen. Decoding speed bonus is reduced from 20% to 10%. That's huge. Mechanic. Change the decreased vaulting speed due to fragile from 30% to 15%. A half percentage change. That's big. Mechanic honestly has received a lot of changes in her lifespan. So we'll see if we're going to see a more rise of mechanics when it comes to Call of the Abyss. Perfumer. A lot of Perfumer fans out there. Cooldown reduced from 10 seconds to 9 seconds, and the increased healing time is adjusted from 30% to 15%. Now let's also talk about the Dancer, because she has been making her rounds in competitive Identity 5 and IVL, IJL. Heck, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some Dancer in Call of the Abyss, but with these changes, let's find out. So let's talk about it. Reduce the effect on interaction speed when multiple boxes are stacked, and also increase speed of the hunter destroying a music box. That's big because, dancers usually want them to destroy that box. They're baiting them to destroy those boxes, especially if they're under pallet. So that's going to be some welcoming changes, I would have to say, when you're facing up against Dancer. And the last changes when it comes to the hunters are for Clerk and Smiley Face. So duration is from 10 seconds to 9 seconds during the Invalid. We also got the Record. Maximum duration is reduced from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. And Inspect. Cooldown is reduced from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. Again, when it's a numbers game, these can stack up. But who knows? We might see a lot more Clerk. We might not see that much, since Clerk has been kind of figured out as of late, since the rise of the wax artists or more stable hunters. Now let's talk about Smiley Face, which, if he comes out once again in Call of the Abyss, maybe in Grand Finals, it's going to be wild. So Rocket Dash triggers resistance when interrupted by Flywheel. And we got to talk about the resistance. So added 2 additional permanent spawn points for propellers in every map. And that about does it, ladies and gentlemen. We went on over the adjustments of the characters, the maps, the band picks, as well as the talents. We want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Please do let us know. And let us know how excited you are for Call of the Abyss 6. I mean, this is definitely going to shake things up, but it's definitely going to make things very interesting. I would say very spicy when it comes to Call of the Abyss 6. Well, that about does it for now, ladies and gentlemen. So I'll catch you on the next one. See ya.